let's start the workshop. Um, Today we are going to have a look at how to stake, how to run a validator node on Ethereum, specifically for Lido using the tool Sedge from Nethermind. Starting with Sedge, Sedge is a one click setup tool for proof of stake networks. Uh, we're going to see Ethereum mainnet today, but they have NOCC chain and a bunch of layer twos and networks available as well, um, both to run validators and also to run nodes for multiple reasons, say it be um, personal use or RPCs and others. On the other hand, the the Lido CSM, the community staking module, allows you to run Ethereum validators using as little as 1.3 Ether. Um, there's a note here because actually the first validator is 2.4 Ether, but all the subsequent ones are 1.3. And the rewards are about 2.3 times the vanilla rewards, but we'll see that in detail in a second. Um, What the CSM allows is for permissionless entry into the Lido node operator set for the first time. And we have this crazy goal to get to 5,000 independent operators, and we are slowly getting there. The protocol has already grown um, probably more than 10 times from 39 operators at the beginning of last year to more than 500 right now, counting the CUDA models, InputDBT, and now CSM as well. The thing here, and the reason we have, or at least I have this particular focus on home stakers, is because right now they're only about 5 to 7% of the network, which is arguably very low. And more home stakers mean more independent verifiers, which means more security, resilience, and censorship resistance. Not only on a technical level, but also I believe this applies on a social level because home stakers are um, probably the most loyal and the most fierce believers in Ethereum. So by expanding the home stakers, by trying to bring more home stakers into the network, we also educate. There's a long tail of education that goes into home staking, and there's more knowledge that can potentially transform into contributions to the ecosystem. Talking specifically about the features of the CSM module, like I said, the first thing is that it's currently the lowest bond of the market at 1.3. There's two sources of rewards. You have, first of all, the bond. The bond collateral is staked as well, so you get about 3% there. And then you also get the 6% of the rewards of the delegated validators. In total, you end up making 2.3 times, and depending on the amount of validators and all that, it is roughly 7% API on the bond, 7.6 more or less. There's the bulk discount, which is what I said, that the first validator is more expensive, but the following ones are 1.3. And then what participating in Lido means in any module, but here obviously the community staking module, is that because Lido is the biggest staking protocol on Ethereum, it is also the biggest MEV smoothing pool. So you benefit from a very large smoothing pool with a lot of operators, a lot of validators, and that the average reward is increased and more stable. And then it's very easy to participate. Not only first, it's made as simple as possible, but also because um, you don't need to be on top of it every day. As long as you are above the threshold, you get rewards, and the threshold is just the network average for the period. minus 5%. So it's like it couldn't be easier to get to that. It's just staying around the average. The operator requirements, uh, well, the bond, you should exit the validators if you are requested by the protocol. To be clear, this is just a regular policy, but because of the way Lido works, it's very, very unlikely that operators in the CSM are requested to exit. It's more likely that in at least for now, for example, that the operators in the curated set are requested to exit validators to fulfill withdrawal requests by the protocol. When you generate the keys, you have to set the withdrawal address to the Lido withdrawal vault. That's the address for mainnet. There's an address for Poletsky and for Hootie. And the fee recipient should be set to the execution layer rewards vault as well. And that's the address again for mainnet. As far as MEV, it is required to use MEV boost with Lido vetted relays. What this means is not that Lido is telling you what to use. There's a table that I'll share a few links after the workshop. There's a table with almost all the relays in the market. They just categorize and check by the team to make sure they're safe and everything works correctly. And you should use a few of them, at least one of them. Now, well, I'll stop here for a brief second to see if there's any question or comment, but if not, we can move straight into the demonstration. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's set up Sedge. I'll run through a few things that we have to do, then I'll show it on the terminal. The first thing is, well, you need to have your server, your node. It's recommended to use Ubuntu 22.04. There's the script install, and also you should check for dependencies and install them if you need. Actually, let's just do that together with the terminal. So I have it here. Here I have my. Let me know if you guys can see it good. Let me zoom this a bit so that it's more clear. Okay. So first, here I have my testing server with Ubuntu, and what I have to do to start is first install Sedge with this command, which makes it very easy. Okay, now I can verify that it was installed correctly, just running Sedge version, for example. Okay, see it, it's the latest 1.9. And I can also check the dependencies. So we can do Sedge deps check. And here I have them installed. Dependencies, if I'm not mistaken, are only or mostly just Docker with the Docker Compose plugin. Then we can, sorry. Then we can move forward to install the node. There's two ways to do this. There's the full interactive command, which is probably first it's faster to get it set up, which I would recommend, especially for testing. And just also if you're starting or just getting familiar with running nodes and Sedge itself. And there's also a non-interactive method where you go like a few different commands to set up different things for your node. One thing that's also very cool about Sedge is that you can just configure what you need. Say you only need the validator client, you can configure only a validator client and connect it to your existing pair of execution and consensus clients. But here we'll do the full interactive command method just to demonstrate how it would be like the first experience. So we run here, and here we start to see options. We have the Ethereum node and the Lido node. The Lido node is going to set up all the requirements for Lido. Say, if you choose to do the keys with Sedge, it's going to set up the withdrawal keys, the withdrawal credentials to Lido, and also the fee recipient and others. Let's do Lido. Here we can choose between a few networks. For the workshop, we're going to do Hoodie, and we are also going to go with a full node because, well, we don't have anything in the server, so we need to do all of it. We can specify the generation path. Here, there's a default one. I'm good with the default, so we can just click enter, and we can put a tag for the containers in Docker. And I'll just, I don't know, just do Lido workshop. I do want to set up a validator. Here we have the image of MEB Boost, the latest. That's fine. For the execution client, I'll just pick. You can pick between a few, and you can also do randomize. I think I haven't seen this on any tool. So if you're curious, if you want to try something new, you can just randomize the client. I'll just pick Nethermind and Nimbus just because I don't know. Here there's a validator grace period. And that's the amount of epochs that it will wait before starting. Just for the sake of the workshop, I'll put it in 0, but I would recommend to at least leave it at 1. Graffiti, I'll say, I know Sedge is cool. The checkpoint sync. Also, here we have for the default, we have the ETH Panda 1. That's fine. Let's leave it default. I do not want to expose all the ports. I want to create a new GWT secret. Let's enable the monitoring stack. Why not? And for the key store, we can create one here. We can create a new mnemonic, new phrase, and it will automatically create a few key stores. This is particularly useful for testing. So if you guys are not familiar with the module, or you're just curious and want to try it out, you can use this. Anyways, I always try to make this disclosure. Anyways, if you're setting this up for mainnet, I would strongly advise that you set up your key stores in a separate offline environment. I'll also share some links after the workshop with some guides, including a guide to secure mainnet key creation. But let's go ahead with this. I'll go create. I also want to create a new mnemonic. It shows the mnemonic, so you would just come here, save it, whatever, then press Q to exit, and I'll put up a random passphrase. Here's a comment from Miguel. He says, highly recommended to play with this keystone creation and management on testnet before trying the main setup. Yes, that's also right. I like very much that Sedge gives us these options, but you should try as much as possible on testnets first. And the good thing is that you can try a bunch of things here on Sedge. For the sake of the workshop, I'm just doing like streamlined setup, but you can also import keys from other places and more. Let's come back here. Okay, so the passphrase, I'll check the random passphrase and I'll just do one validator. This is a new mnemonic, so let's go with 0, with the index 0 for the validators. And here now it's starting to pull some images. This is an error that I've seen happening, but I think it's maybe Miguel can correct me, but I think it's because the validator is required to check for the consensus to start, and maybe there's some conflict here, but we can just do sedge run, and it will pull all the other images and start them. Here we can see, so what happens here is that first is getting the consensus client set up, and Sedge uses this blocker service, this validator blocker service, which it needs to wait for the consensus to be set up, to be synced, to start the validator, just like a safety precaution. And also it does check for this parameter here. In this case, because we just pulled the consensus clients and starting, it will take a few seconds. In the meantime, what we can do is come back here. Oh yeah, Miguel, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a bit of more context on that, on the validator blocker. So this is the way that Sage guarantees that you are not going to get slash. Because if the validator starts like super early, and let's say you restarted in the same epoch when you already did an attestation, you could get slash. And this validator blocker for every restart, every time that you start the setup, the whole setup, will make sure first that you wait for the amount of epoch that you configure, and secondly, it will wait for the consensus client to be fully synced. So you can make sure that you're getting the data duties for the validator. This is the proposals and the attestation, sorry.
That's very good. I think I like to see it or to think about it as an extension of the database protection. But the database protection is mostly when you are importing a validator from another existing setup. But this just is, I guess, another layer of protection to make sure that everything runs okay. And it's just barely a few seconds, so it should not interfere at all with the performance of validators. Um, as we can see here, all the containers have started or exited for those that had to exit. And we can see here as well all the information, all the images, all the Docker images. Now, what we can do to check the setup is just go, I don't know, just go Sedge logs, and it will show the logs for all the containers. So, for example, for the consensus client, for the execution client, and more. We can see, for example, here that Nethermind is syncing, and Nimbus is doing some backfill here as well. Well, cool. Now, what we can check very quick is also, let me clear this here. What we can check very quick is the Sedge folder. By default, if we remember, Sedge installed this folder here, Sedge data. If we go there, we can see that we have an environment file and also a Docker compose file. And I don't know, we can check the Docker compose file very quick. And this is what Sedge does when you are going through the setup, right? It just configures a Docker compose file. And here we can see all the parameters. If we wanted to change something, we could. At the end of the day, it's our setup, but it's good that we have Sedge to take care or to make it easier to manage all of that. We also have folders for consensus, folders for execution and validator. And here we have the key store folder. If we go there, we can see that you have another folder for the validator keys. You have the key store password. Remember that I made it random. And you also have the deposit data. What we can do now to continue then, or what we would do now is go to the CSM widget here I'm in Hoodie. I'm in with an operator that I created yesterday to try a few things out, and I have some ether ready. What we can do now is, well, first we should back everything up, especially the key stores, just in case something happens with the setup. But assuming we already have the backup, we could just go check the deposit data. If we have it on our machine, we would just drag and drop the file into the Lido widget. But if not, we can just come here, copy it, and paste it, for example. Um, Here we will have this. We will see the ether amount. Oh, well, let me just uh, make something here clear. I did deposit some ether beforehand. Um, so here I would just come here and Lido would ask me to deposit the reminder, which is about 0.05 ether. Uh, I check and confirm that my nodes are synced, running, and ready for the validator activation. And I understand that deleting keys from the deposit queue will incur a removal fee. Confirm that, submit the keys. Let's give it 1 second. Probably the RPC is a bit slow now. Oh, let me refresh and check that again. That's a bit odd. So we come here, we click confirm, and we get the wallet there. Well, this is a bit awkward, a bit strange, but what would happen here pretty much is we would click sign, we will wait for the chain to process the transaction. At that point, the validators would be put in the queue for deposit. You would be able to see them here. You would see the corresponding key for that validator. You would also see here the position of that validator in the queue. And as soon as the uh, Lido gets deposits, your validator would get deposited too. In the case of testnets, the contributors frequently push deposits so that everyone can uh, try it out. Uh, um, that would be it. But of course, then you have a plethora of things you can do. As I mentioned, you can then come back later and import keys to Sedge. Let me close this. So you could come here, do import key, and let's do help. And you here have like a set of um, flags and configurations for when you want to import more key stores, more validators. Um, And some other things that are cool that are actually very good is, well, first the Sedge logs, like I mentioned. Um, we already saw this live. You can technically also just check Docker, for example, and I don't know, take the container and do Docker logs in the container. Oops, I put an S before it. And you can actually also check the status of your light operator via Sedge. So you could take this, for instance, and my node operator in this case is 38. Yeah, 38. It will fetch the information and give me the information. For Hoodie, this is something I was speaking with them just before the workshop. For Hoodie, it seems like because the migration was so from one day to another, was very repentine. It looks like it's pushing information from mainnet, but I would guess that this should be solved in a release soon. And well, after this, there's obviously a bunch of things you can do, a bunch of things you can configure. And even we could even look at the non-interactive setup. But let me just stop here first and see if there's any questions. Yeah, I see a comment from Miguel. Yeah, we should ping the operator 38 and check. He has some good ether there. See, don't be shy if any of you have any question. Okay, just one comment. How to claim the rewards? Yep, so that's a good question actually. Do I have maybe in Haleski? Let me just check. No, I did exit them, I think. Oh, yeah, I can show it here on Hoodie. So, okay, we can go a bit deeper into CSM itself. What you could do here is what you would do here, let's suppose you have a few at least one key active and whatnot. You have put some ether. You can come to the bonds and rewards section. Here, if assuming you had you performed good, you have active keys and all that, you will have rewards here, and you would check that. Or if not, you can just claim the excess bond. Um, Here we can I remind everyone that the bond is staked, so the bond generates reward. It makes about 3% API right now. So you can claim the excess if you want to. Uh, and here you have the option to choose between three assets. You can do Ether, only Ether, with one caveat. You get a withdrawable NFT, so you have to make sure that you're good waiting. You have to make sure that your withdrawable, your reward address in CSM um, is compatible or can manage NFTs. The other option is to withdraw STETH. Um, the thing here is that, well, STETH is a reversible token. So again, depending on your use, you may or may not want to have STETH on your wallet. And then you have wrapped stake Ether, which does not rebase and is the ideal token to be used on DeFi. I don't know, I could just go here, take STETH, click max, and claim the rewards. And that would be it. Oh, my Hoodie RPC is really not working right now. It's funny because I did try the setup just before joining the workshop. But okay. Some other important things are the roles. In CSM, you have two roles. Oh, I think it looks better here. You have two roles. You have the manager role and the reward address. The manager, what the manager does or what the manager has capacity to do is to interact with the node. Can upload, can submit bond, can put more bond, can upload new key stores, can manage them, but it cannot get rewards. The manager can request rewards, but rewards will always go to the reward address. And the reward address, well, again, it can do everything that the manager can do. It gets the rewards, and additionally, it also acts as the root administrator of the validator of the operator. So, for example, the reward address can change itself and the manager address, but the manager address cannot change the reward address, for example. So if you want to change your setup, if you want to change, I don't know, say you're using a hot wallet for the manager address, uh, you can change it anytime using the reward address, but you wouldn't be able to change the rewards using the manager. Down here, we also have some dashboards. In mainnet, there's a few more dashboards that will just help you track the performance of your operators, including one that's new. That's actually very useful. And here, for example, these guys developed as CSM integration. So you can see here, for example, I don't know, let's look at the operator 38 in mainnet, and you would here would see the proposed blocks, um, and also the performance in multiple ways, like the source, the target, the head, um, compared like its own performance compared to CSM overall and compared to the whole network, as well as the participation rate overall. You also get to see a dashboard for Beacon Chain, for Reddit Network, yada yada yada. Um, and this would be most of it for the CSM. Something that I think I did not mention, I mentioned rewards. Rewards are processed on 28 days windows. Um, these are the reward the performance frames, the reward frames. And so at the end of the day 28, a few set of oracles look at the process the performance of all the operators and push an update to the chain which gives access to the rewards for all the operators. I see a comment here from Camille. Do you have any hardware recommendations? The hardware listed on Ethereum staking launchpad is pretty generic and does not point to any particular pieces. Okay, that's a good question. So there's two ways I would go about it. First, um, every client is different and every client has slightly different requirements. So you can probably just look at the ones you want to run or look at a few and um, see like what are the common requirements and build something. Um, but also there's one AIP hardware, this one. I'm not sure if it's like officially approved, but people are taking this as a reference. And this one um, recommends a CPU with at least 8 cores, 4 GB of SSD, and 32 GB of RAM as minimum. This is to be future-proofed, but in reality, right now, I would recommend if you want to run something today on mainnet, if you're running only testnets, you can do with less storage. But if it's mainnet, you can do with as little as any quad-core CPU, 2 TB of RAM of SSD. Sorry, 2 TB of RAM would be a lot, and 16 GB of RAM. Although I would recommend 40 TB of SSD and at least 32 GB of RAM as well. That's the configuration I have. The machine I have at home is a quad-core CPU, 4 TB of SSD, and 32 GB of RAM. So let me share this link. I'll also share a bunch of these links after the workshop on Luma. I will push a message to all the attendees. And Miguel also asked, how do I deal with exit requests? So there's two ways to deal with exit requests on Lido. There's, or specifically the CSM, there's what I could call the easy way and the one that's a bit more complicated but automated as well. The easy way, well, here on the widget, it will tell you, it would give you a message that you are being requested to exit validator X. Say here, for example, it would tell you the status in a comment with the relevant information. If it's that you're being requested to exit, it will say that you are requested to exit. The other thing that you can do is um, run there's services for Bevo. So Lido has the Bevo, which is the validator exit boost oracle, and it's a service that informs about well, yeah, exit requests. Uh, you can technically you can run Vevo and have like a few pre-signed exit messages for your validators. So if at any moment you are being requested, the service can take the pre-signed exit message and push it by himself automatically. Um, this is probably way too complicated for most people. It's fine if you just check the user interface. But if you are more advanced, if you have time to play around, or if you are planning to run a good amount of validators on CSM, this may be worth looking into. Cool. Um, let's see. Well, let me see if there's any other questions or comments before proceeding. I do have a few other slides with some extra information, but let me just wait a second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, cool. So, well, now we have Sedge set up. We can look at the logs. We would wait some time for. Actually, this actually synced now. I forgot that Huri is new, so it's very lightweight. It's not a bunch of information. We have our node set up. Now the only thing that would be left is to get deposited into Lido. And here, after that happens, here we would see logs for the consensus and validator client saying, hey, well, the validator X is pushing some attestations or proposing a blog or part of a sync committee, whatever duty is doing at the moment. There's some extra information about CSM, the current state of CSM and the futures of CSM as well that I think is very important. First, in general, where there's a bunch of integrations. One of them is Sedge, but there's a few others. It's also very easy to use with DBTs because, well, I won't get too technical right now, but the way CSM is built is as close to a vanilla setup as possible. So it makes it easy to just configure SSB or ball or whatever else. And it's also very cheap to deposit bond or deposit validators in general. There's a bunch of community resources. We have a database. I'll share the link as well after the workshop with information in English, in Spanish, in Korean, in Japanese, um, text guides, video guides for multiple integration. And this, after we upload it to YouTube, this will also be available on the database. Uh, now, I think I'll talk specifically about mainnet, CSM mainnet. The thing with CSM mainnet right now is it became permissionless on January or early February, and it got filled very, very quickly. So, for example, right now there's no capacity to enter. You would be put in a queue, and there's no we don't know when those validators will get deposited. Why do I say this? Well, first, for all of you guys to know, it's to wait, to practice on testnet, but also because we've been working on the second version of the CSM module that has a few features. Some of the most important, at least for the people here in this workshop, is first, there's an independent stakers list that's upgradable. CSMB1 had like an EA list that granted benefits for whitelist a snapshot of addresses. On CSMB2, we will be able to update it. And the people in the independent stakers list can be given priority queue. So maybe a few of your validators, let's say 2 or 3 validators, are put in at the beginning of the queue, and also custom thresholds or rewards. So we can make it so that independent operators get more rewards or better rewards for their profile, and also adjust the performance thresholds for the needs. There's a strike system. So say you behave bad or you do something, you will get a few strikes before being requested to exit, and a few other other new features. And I say this because, well, part of getting identified for the list is just learning how to use CSM, is just getting involved in the community. So for example, in a second, I'll share a survey, and the survey will give an on-chain credential, a NOAT at the end that will be used as part of the signals to identify solo stakers. Also using testnet um, is part of the signals that we use. There's like a combination of signals. So I would invite you guys, if you like Sedge, if you like the workshop, to after the workshop, try it out. You can see how actually we are 15 minutes into the workshop, and most of the workshop has been me talking because it's been very easy to set up the node using Sedge. It was just a few commands and reading a few things. So you can take I don't know, a few hours in the weekend or whatever and get and try CSM. Um, and let us know what you think about it later. I'll be very curious to see. Um, Timeline wise, just to be clear, timeline wise, the technical documents, the technical specs, and everything has been already proposed to the community in the forum. So we hope that testnet gets out early summer, so I don't know, June, something like that. And hopefully we get to mainnet by late summer, early autumn, so August, September. But you know how these things work. We will have to see if deadlines can be met. But that's some rough timelines. And with that said, I think we can get into the survey very quickly before wrapping up. I'll also there's the QR, and I'll also share the link here. It's just one or two questions that we use to make sure that we do these workshops good. And at the end of when you complete the survey, you'll get a link to claim the credential. Uh, I'll leave this QR open for a bit and welcome any comments, chatter, jokes, whatever you guys wanna talk about right now for the remaining of the session. Don't be shy. I've done a few I've done a few workshops like this, and I think it's the first time we have someone actually from the team of the integration here. So I would highly recommend to shoot your questions because this is probably the best time to get an answer either from me that I've tried the tool a bit and I've used a bit, or from Miguel himself that probably knows the ins and out of Sedge way better than me.
Hello, NT. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Cool. Uh, I know that you have been running with different partners with different tools. Have you ever found a kind of difference in efficiency about running with DAppNode or with Sage or directly with CLI, etc.?
Um, so I guess there's two answers to that. If it's like a specific validator performance, no, because to be honest, really all or most of the integrations use Docker in the background, so it's like the same. They use the same images, it's the same clients. If you use Nethermind on DAppNode, Sedge, Styrium, whatever, you're using Nethermind on Docker with a layer on top. So performance-wise, doesn't make a difference. There's a chance that by default, the tools configure the clients a bit differently. And that may be a reason. Maybe the number of the port is conflicting with something in your setup, and that makes your performance go down. But in general, there should be no difference. What I guess we could say is a difference is like sort of the tools that the integrations make available and how easy are they to manage. So I don't know, you have a spectrum, say, that node is a very probably the most friendly UI user interface. It's very easy to use. It's very convenient. It has like by default some basic monitoring, some basic alerts, um, which makes it ideal for people that are just starting out. But on the other hand, it takes slightly longer to push updates because it's a more managed setup. Um, and maybe it's a bit harder to do like more advanced or custom setups. But if you are someone with more experience, you can use Sedge. You can build from like you can use pure vanilla with system files, and then you have like full expression. But if you want monitoring, if you want alerts, then you have to do it on your own as well. I don't know if that answered your questions, but yeah.
Yes, in general terms, yes. Thank you.
Yep. Uh, Miguel asks, how long have you been running your CSM validator? Curious about how long does it take to yield such non-claim rewards? Um, I guess you're asking about node 38. That's not my node, um, unfortunately. But it being such a low ID, it probably started like the first month of CSM, and CSM was launched late October last year. Okay, and well, actually, now that I'm seeing these, there's one thing here that's very important. Um, and here we would have to see like how this tool is checking rewards, but because it exited the validator, and it still have the bond, maybe it's just counting the bond as rewards because he can claim it because he doesn't have a validator assigned to it. So he
Makes
can
sense.
just pick it anytime. Yeah. Um, yeah, he would have to be running. It also depends on the amount of validators you run, right? But he would have to be running a good amount of validators to make 1.3 Ether in less than a year. Uh, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, Isaac, can you see the monitoring part of Sedge, like it support this thing, Grafana or anything?
what do you say again?
I mean, is there any monitoring support in Sedge? We can see how the the validators are running like that.
Um,
I mean, we
yeah,
have in each pillar, we have this support for Grafana. Using that, we can see how our execute this clients are running, the performance.
yeah. If you run a second, I'm looking for okay, yeah, I have here the comments. I want to make sure I have them. When you set up the validator, I think I cleared everything. When you set up the validator, it asks you if you want to also set up the monitoring suite, or I don't know how it's probably calls them, but yeah,
Like,
Grafana, Prometheus, etc. And you have like a few. We can do like, yeah. So we have it has like a few commands. And we can, I don't know, let's initialize it in it. And it also has again Oh, okay. Was my bad. You can do init default or init CS Lido for CSM. Let's do init Lido. Oh, well, I have to configure this here, but we also have like so init Lido H, like specific commands for Lido. So for example, yes, I could do Sedge monitoring init Lido node operator ID 38, for example. But yeah, in short, you do have some monitoring options.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah. Following Grafana and all.
I'll also, because I just have it open here, so I'll share the link here.
Yes.
Yeah, Miguel?
Yeah, it needs the node operator ID because you have like it set up a Grafana dashboard with these metrics that you can see with Sedge, like the status command. So you can see all of that information on your browser.
That is with which flag? Let's see, can you just read it? Hmm. Well, that's quite a few amount of containers. I hadn't tried monitoring extensively in Sedge just yet. But yeah, here we have it. You said there was an UI, Miguel?
Yes, there is one. It's on, you can access it on localhost. If you
Oh,
check the containers, Docker PS, you can see the port, and then on localhost. Where's Grafana? Yeah, 3000. It should be. No, this is a plugin for Grafana. It should be the Grafana OSS, yeah.
okay, so 3000, localhost 3000, 3000. Oh, well, I'm not a server, so I think I guess I wouldn't be able to access it just right now. I will have to expose it and all that. If I can do that very quick. I don't know if I think I don't have the firewall configured on that server. Oh, I think here it is. Okay, I
It
think
should be
it's
a school.
loading.
Yeah.
Oh, does it have like a default user?
Yeah, it has a default credentials that you can change. Should be admin.
Okay, let me just put whatever password. Okay. Huh. Yeah, here it is. Exporter, those metrics. Yeah, and here you can check everything.
Yeah,
The
we are
on-call.
still having the backlog to add more dashboards and monitoring support for the nodes for the validator. It's just Lido and host machine
Oh,
compute resources for now.
okay. Oh, that's hopeful enough, actually. Um, well, in here you can see the exit request as well. You yourself
Yeah, you create
asked.
alerts around it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess this also answers Ariela's questions to some extent. Like you can it's very helpful to do it here as well. But depends on your level. I personally, I do have like multiple setups depending on what I'm doing, but I try to stay within like medium level tools. I do use Dapnode for one of my machines, but in general, I try to use Styrium is the one I use the most, but also I've tried Sedge once or twice, mostly testnets, and a few others. Just play with them. Hmm, all right. We are now at the top of the hour. Let me just check if there's any other questions and answers. Questions. Well, I am the one giving the answers. If there's any other questions or comments, I can stay for a few minutes if so, but if not, we can probably wrap it up. Message here.
One question, Nti.
Uh-huh.
I have a node with Dapnode working. I was working with the previous testnet. Would you recommend to uninstall that and then install Sedge, or can I have both of them running on the same computer, or maybe not running but installed in the same device?
No, you can have multiple things installed on the same machine. Because Damnode is just a layer, but you're using Debian in the background. I'm not sure how good Sedge work with Debian, but I guess it shouldn't be an issue anyways. But whatever. You can just SSH into your machine with Damnode and follow this guide and the documentation to install Sedge. And the only thing you have to keep an eye to is making sure that ports don't clash. And also, well, I would also try to make an efficient use of the resources. So if you are running your execution and consensus clients on that node, you can configure Sedge to only use a validator client so you don't have to run the chain twice. But yes, you can run both at the same time.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
If that's actually that's a good question. I'll take a note. If that's of interest, maybe we can do a workshop later on like more advanced setups. This was just a quick setup. But I can replicate just your question, for example.
Perfect. Cool. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Cool. Well, I'll open again for 5 seconds, and if not, we can call it off. Again, please do fill the survey. The OAT is going to be well, I don't want to say important because it's not strictly defined yet, but it's definitely one of the signals we'll be looking into to give benefits to all of you when you get to CSM mainnet in the version 2, and just because it's helpful for us to get information on how we're doing. I will also share some of the links, the presentation, and other information after the workshop. So keep an eye on your email. And that's it. Happy validating. Catch you all on the next one. Up.
Thank you.